That's interesting, God. And that's one of the things that I wanted to go with you about is about some of the things that were added on after Allah returned to His essence, and how there's so many disagreements, and actually maybe even some factions in our nations.
There's faction. There's a lot of faction. There's that nation of God and earth, and the 5%. That's
Allah's 5%.
Yeah.
Then what Allah taught. Just to take note of something like our brothers would say Allah didn't teach this and Allah didn't teach that, right? Well, I never saw Allah wear gold teeth in his mouth. Right? You know what I'm saying? I never saw Allah wear gold chains, a bunch of jewelry. I never heard of him driving fancy cars. But I know a lot of gods who have gold in their mouth and wear jewelry and do these things. And there's no knock to them. I'm just saying that we do add on.
Well, I know. Of course, you add on. That's for sure. And he even says, you change as the people change. You change as the children change. Time change, I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. It's just what you add on. Because that's why it also says in the knowledge cipher degree, it says, so we agree.
So we agree. But not all of us agree, God.
We don't.
We don't.
That's the whole thing. That's what it don't. And see, like, we in September. When we was teenagers and kids, September was the month that, people that was born to the nation in this month and shit, either they would accept or reject. Right? That's what September was. And September was also a month of separating yourself from the world that you came out of. Because it was the born month.
Okay.
So you want to born
yourself
into a new world. I mean, it's like a baby coming out of the womb, coming out of darkness into light. So I mean, like.
But I've never heard that. I mean, is that something that Allah taught, or is that something that brothers added on that's throughout the years?
That's something that came from his teachings. Like it's how we spoke when he was here, because this is all we had. We didn't have all the information that is available today, which is part of covering up and keeping us behind. Because see, you don't have to seek to find it, so you take it for granted more now because you don't work as hard to get it, and that's what's happening in this day and time. Because a dude can go punch a button on a computer, laptop, his phone, and he can get to all the lessons Mr. Muhammad didn't want nobody to get but his followers. I mean, that was a big thing back then with us and the Muslims, the fact that we had the lessons.
And they didn't want you to have the lessons because you wasn't supposed to have the lessons.
They was, I mean, we used to look at it, I still look at it like that, They was being fed piece by piece. And if it was wine, right, they was getting a little glass of wine at a time, a sip each time they came to the mosque. We got a whole gallon and took that motherfucker and threw it up like that. And guzzled that sucker down.
We became extremely intoxicated.
I'm telling you, we was out here in the world just staggering with this truth. And ain't nobody wanted to hear it from. They used to say the 5%ers are the Muslims that drink and smoke. That's what they used to call us, for real.
That's interesting you say that, because when I was coming up, my brown seed, he would call the 5%ers the jail Muslims.
The jail Muslims, yeah.
Because a lot of brothers was getting locked up, and called the jail Muslims.
Yeah, that's interesting, because I seen in that book Russell Simmons wrote, he says about if the Nation of Islam got their followers out of the jail, then the 5%ers came from under the jail. So I know. I mean, it was so rapid in the jail at the time too, because I mean, really, the island of Pelon back then
was Rikers.
It was Rikers Island.
Right. I just read that.
Yeah, that's where God was being manifested at. That's where Messiah and them was on. It was at. And that's where it was coming out of. They used to have terms about renegade Muslims, because once Malcolm,
that was the Blood Brothers.
Blood Brothers,
Right.
you know,
Yes.
yeah, the renegade Muslims, the Blood Brothers, the Sons of Allah, you know, it was calling them all kinds because it was street Islam, period. Really, it was street Islam. It was in the street.
Street Islam.
Yeah, that's what, you know, street Islam.
If Mecca did this.